Welcome to Echoes of the Unknown, the podcast where we'll be exploring some of the world's most fascinating unsolved mysteries. I'm Jack Montgomery, and today we're plunging into a story that's sticky, sweet, and criminally Canadian. We're heading to the quiet forests of Quebec, where one of the strangest and most lucrative thefts in modern history took place. Not diamonds, not art, not even gold. No, we're talking about the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. This heist stands as one of history's most unusual large-scale thefts, targeting not precious metals or priceless art, but rather a sticky breakfast staple worth millions. In Canada, maple syrup is more than just a pancake topping. It's a $500 million industry, and over 70% of the world's supply of this sweet syrup, made from the sap of maple trees, comes from Quebec. This remarkable crime struck at the very heart of Quebec's maple syrup industry. The scope and sophistication of the heist would eventually reveal vulnerabilities in what many considered an impenetrable system of syrup storage and distribution. At the center of this story is the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, or FPAQ. It's essentially a syrup cartel that was formed by the province to control and stabilize the market. Think of it like OPEC, but for syrup instead of oil. The Federation maintains what's known as the Global Strategic Maple Syrup Reserve. Yes, that's a real thing. Vast quantities of surplus syrup are stored in a set of climate-controlled warehouses. This centralized storage system was designed to preserve the quality and shelf life of large volumes of syrup, ensure a consistent global supply, and, perhaps most importantly, maintain price stability. However, it inadvertently created an extremely tempting target for ambitious thieves. After all, the facilities hold tens of millions of dollars worth of sweet, sticky gold. Between 2011 and 2012, criminals orchestrated an ingenious scheme that resulted in the disappearance of more than 3,000 tons of maple syrup, worth approximately 19 million Canadian dollars, which vanished without a trace. The scale of the theft was staggering, approximately 9,500 barrels, each worth around $2,000. So how did one of the sweetest heists in history happen right under everyone's nose? Let's unravel this mystery. The heist took place at an FPAQ storage facility in Saint-Louis-de-Blanford, Quebec. It wasn't heavily guarded. In fact, security at the time was laughably minimal. After all, who steals maple syrup? The perpetrators executed their plan with remarkable precision and patience. They rented space in part of the warehouse, posing as legitimate syrup producers, which gave them crucial access to the facility. Then slowly and methodically, they began siphoning syrup out of the barrels and replacing it with water. They were careful to match the weight of untampered barrels, thus ensuring that the theft would not be immediately noticed during casual inspections. The stolen syrup was then smuggled out in trucks, barrel by barrel, and sold through black market channels to buyers across Canada and into the United States. They created a complex distribution network that would later prove challenging for investigators to unravel. The scheme went undetected for over a year, until one day when Federation inspectors came to do a routine check and noticed something amiss. When they went to move a barrel, it felt suspiciously light. Upon opening it, they discovered that it contained water instead of syrup. A full audit eventually revealed the tremendous scope of the theft. But by then, the syrup was long gone. It wasn't just barrels filled with water. Some had been completely emptied. Others were stained with syrup residue, but hadn't been touched in months. Many barrels had altered serial numbers or had been tampered with, so the theft would not be immediately noticed. The thieves had even gone so far as to refill and professionally reseal barrels to make them appear untouched. It was a brilliant con that required inside knowledge, precise coordination, remarkable attention to detail, and an extensive logistical network. The heist had shaken the maple syrup industry to its core. Quebec's provincial police force, the Sûreté du Québec, immediately launched a massive investigation. They dubbed it Operation Sugar Shack. The effort involved over 250 investigators who employed sophisticated techniques ranging from DNA analysis to phone surveillance. They began tracking down syrup barrels, tracing them across provinces and even into the United States. It wasn't easy. Although each barrel had a unique serial code, many of them had been altered or obscured. In one instance, investigators found barrels of stolen syrup in a sugar shack in New Brunswick. In another, a warehouse worker's fingerprints led them to a larger ring of sellers and transporters. The investigation's complexity reflected the sophisticated nature of the crime, requiring coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies and jurisdictions. The extensive police work eventually led to the arrests of 26 people, including key figures like Avec Caron, the man who rented the warehouse, and Richard Valliere, a syrup reseller who became the face of the scandal. The investigation revealed a complex network of thieves, transporters, and black market dealers who had worked together to execute the heist and distribute the stolen syrup. In 2016, Valliere was found guilty of theft, fraud, and trafficking. He received an 8-year prison sentence and was ordered to pay over $9.4 million in fines and restitution. But here's the kicker. During his trial, Valliere claimed he was forced to participate by unnamed buyers who threatened him. He swore that he only kept the operation going to protect himself and his family. Many found that defense difficult to believe, given the elaborate nature of the scheme and its long-term execution. But to this day, others believe he was telling the truth and think the masterminds of the crime have so far escaped justice. Now here's where things get really sticky, pun absolutely intended. The case exposed deeper tensions within the maple syrup industry. Some producers actually sympathized with the thieves, viewing them as rebels against what they considered an oppressive system. They viewed the Federation as a syrup mafia, hoarding supply, controlling prices, and punishing independent producers. They had long complained that the FPAQ's strict regulations were suffocating. All producers were forced to sell their syrup through the Federation or face strict penalties. Small producers particularly chafed under rules that prevented them from selling their excess syrup directly to customers, which meant they sometimes had to watch their products sit in the reserve for years. So the black market emerged. This led to a competing theory about the heist's true motivation. It wasn't just about profit, it was about freedom, about undercutting a system that many producers saw as unfair. Still others believed the crime was more calculated, a way to corner part of the syrup market and create what was in effect a shadow economy. After all, if you could sell thousands of barrels at full price, off the books, the payout would be enormous. The operation's sophistication suggested both careful planning and insider knowledge, leading many to suspect that not all participants were caught. The presence of industry expertise in the execution of the theft raised questions about possible collusion from within the system itself. While a few people took the fall, many believe others involved were never caught. Insiders? Corrupt inspectors? Perhaps the Federation chose not to dig too deeply. The aftermath prompted significant changes in security protocols at the reserve, including enhanced surveillance, far stricter audits, and even barrel tracking technology. The FPAQ learned the hard way that maple syrup, like any other valuable commodity, could be targeted by organized crime and thus required protection on par with other precious resources. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist is more than just a crime story. It became legend. The case has captured public imagination, inspiring books, documentaries, news specials, and even an upcoming Netflix series. The legacy of this uniquely Canadian crime continues to resonate, demonstrating how excessive regulation of seemingly ordinary commodities might inadvertently create opportunities for illicit profit by criminal enterprises. While many, if not all, of the main perpetrators were caught and punished, the full story of the Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist may never be completely known. The case serves as a fascinating study in how modern organized crime can target unexpected commodities, and how traditional agricultural products can become the focus of sophisticated criminal schemes when their value and market structure create the right conditions. To some, the maple syrup thieves are folk heroes. To others, they're criminals who jeopardized a national treasure. To this day, millions of dollars worth of stolen syrup remains unaccounted for, likely consumed long ago after being bottled and distributed through various channels. And somewhere out there, a few of you may still be enjoying pancakes topped with the spoils of the most Canadian crime of all time. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Echoes of the Unknown. Got a mystery you'd like us to cover? Reach out to us on social media or email us at echoesunknownpod@gmail.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with fellow mystery lovers. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the sweetest crimes leave the bitterest aftertaste.